Welcome to the True Crime Squad. I'm Kristi Brower, here with my sister, co-host, and partner in crime, Katie Weaver. Hey, Katie.
Hello.
How's it going?
I'm good. I'm cold. It's chilly. We're in this weird place of do you run the heat or don't you?
Or do you need
Because,
the air conditioning? Yeah.
yeah, but
May is a weird
45
month
right
here.
now and rainy, and we've had hail today. And yeah, the weather kind of
Mm-hmm.
blows. But
That's all right. I'm still just trying to get my head around
what the
what the
hell
hell
happened
happened in
today?
court today. Holy shit. If you have not heard about court today, hang on to your butts because, as I kind of guessed,
Yeah.
he started with Emma.
Yeah.
So Emma Daybell Murray was the first defense witness on the stand. And it was bizarre. First of all, we all learned that she talks just like her dad.
Mm-hmm.
She's really hard to listen to without, wanting to scream or run away.
Mm-hmm.
So slow. Honestly, the mental health social worker side of me says medicated.
Yeah.
She comes off as being medicated in a way that makes her talk really slowly.
Mm-hmm.
I also think, though, that she talks a lot like her dad.
Yeah.
And it turns out so does her brother Garth.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's kick it off. I have a whole bunch of clips to share with you.
Yeah.
I have parsed up a lot of today so that you can hear and see it.
Before we do that, though, a quick programming note from
Yes.
us.
Mm-hmm.
Because this weekend is our one of our biggest and funnest camping trips of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if there is court on Friday, and we still think it's a big if, but if there is court on Friday, we're going to do the recap directly after court ending. So it won't be at 6 p.m. It'll be probably around 3:30 p.m. or whenever court ends. So we have no idea what the end of this week is going to look like because we still have no idea how long prior is going to take or what rebuttal is going to look like. Oh, but after today, I'm feeling a little more confident that rebuttal is going to bring some bombshells. It's obviously going to bring some bombshells, but that's our plan. So we'll say it every day this week. We just want to make sure that you guys know that. But on Friday, we will do the recap directly after court if there is court. So
yes. Oh, Gran, I love that. Monotone family, like a Saturday Night Live skit, right? They all talk like that. All of them that we've met so far.
Yeah.
It was bizarre. So, interesting, some interesting things to note. People in the courtroom today were at least three of the, a couple of the Daybell children were there. I'm sorry, not in the courtroom, in the courthouse today were Emma Daybell Murray, Garth Daybell, and Joe Murray.
Yeah.
These are the three children or in-laws that we have predicted would testify. Will there be others? They could be, but boy, he jumped right in to Emma, and Pryor's been hanging this entire case on Emma.
On Emma, yeah.
Which I think is a huge mistake. But we shall see.
Yeah.
So Emma takes the stand. She said, this was interesting. So she is a victim. So she did not have to testify today.
No.
I'm sorry, Jesus Christ. I'm getting ahead of myself. She did not have to not watch the trial. She could have watched any of the trial if she wanted to. But John Pryor said that his subpoena asked that she specifically not watch the trial.
Yeah.
And so she says she hasn't. If that is true, then she has no idea how badly she perjured herself in court today.
Yeah.
Because she does not know all of the things that were said before she said them. I don't know. She was not credible at all. I didn't think, but we're going to go through it. You can help us out and tell us what you think. She prior asked how many times she'd spoken to him. She said about 3 times in preparation for the trial, including last night. And she said that the only instruction prior gave her was to tell the truth.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
So she kicks right off with a whole bunch of bullshit. You know, she talks about that she's living in her dad's house. That she has made a financial arrangement with her father to live at the house, and that she does not know what the arrangement is between Chad and Pryor in relation to the house. This was the first thing that we're like, you don't know who owns the house you're living in?
Right.
Bullshit. I don't believe it for a minute.
This dude is literally your landlord and has you on the stand. I mean, that in itself is so inappropriate.
It is. And she's like, yeah, I have an agreement or an arrangement with my father. The way she referred to Chad as her father the whole time. It was because it was very deferential.
Yeah.
When she referred to her father, and it just grossed me out. She did. She sounded incredibly coached.
Oh, yeah.
But that was the first thing that they confirmed, is that she doesn't know what the deal is between him and Chad on the house. Like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. He started by asking about Tammy's health. She said that, you know, she usually did things without getting exhausted, and that she started going to bed before dinner some nights. 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night.
You know what killed me about that? Clogging and the exercise class were both after 5 o'clock at night.
Yeah. She's
as
such
well
a liar.
As the church meetings that she had once a week on Wednesdays with the Relief Society ladies were in the evenings, as well as enrichment night. Like, Tammy had activities in the evening most nights during the week.
She did.
And we have this bitch telling us that she's going to bed at 5 p.m. Are you kidding?
She also said that she would sleep in when she had the chance. My God, what a lazy bitch. Are you kidding me?
Well, who wouldn't?
She started out disparaging her mother from the very beginning. She is speaking ill of Tammy. You can see exactly what Chad's influence is with these guys.
Absolutely. Yep.
Her opinion of her mother is pretty poor.
Yeah.
Let's see. So I have a couple of clips I wanted to share with you in relation to that. Let's see. Here's Emma on Mom's health.
What can you tell me in general about your mother's health in the last year or so?
She, well, she'd always been one to be able to meet the demands of daily life without being exhausted. And she started going to bed at like before dinner some nights. She would sleep in too if given the opportunity. So suddenly needing to sleep a lot was very confusing to me. Since her passing, I've been diagnosed with sleep apnea, and my maternal grandfather also has sleep apnea. That's something that obviously we can't investigate at this time.
Could have with I don't know, autopsy?
Right. But yes, implying that her mother must have had sleep apnea. Except that she was never diagnosed with sleep apnea, nor was she ever treated for sleep apnea.
Yeah.
Also, Tammy was 49 years old.
Yeah.
And any of you that have experienced the beginnings of menopause, perimenopause, do you get tired of shit? Yes. Do you take extra opportunities to sleep? God damn you do.
Well, yeah, and she was also working full time and running their business. Like,
and doing
Tammy had a lot going.
And taking all of these classes. Like,
yeah. But good point, Candace. She said if she did go to bed that early once in a while, it was probably to get away from Chad. She was probably depressed, and I agree with that entirely.
Most definitely. Well, we know she was depressed. She was taking medication for depression. She was on Prozac, so we know that.
Those statements of her saying she felt disconnected from her body, That could be depression or anxiety as well.
Yeah. It could also be perimenopause because it
Yeah.
makes you feel crazy. Okay? And if you don't know that yet, you will.
You're just not there yet.
Yes. So, and no one has brought this up, and it's so typical of a male influenced system to not mention the fact that at 49 she was very likely in perimenopause and experiencing some of those kinds of symptoms.
Yeah.
But yeah, she had a job that wore on her, and then she did all of this other stuff. So, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
And then the sleep apnea thing. Like, I mean, how many more strands of spaghetti are we going to throw at the wall of diagnoses that we know for sure Tammy never had?
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
To bring a new one in today, I'm like, really? Okay.
Yeah. Just stupid. Just, yeah. Stupid. She talked about her mom taking colloidal silver, which some people use for an antiviral, antibiotic effect. If you take too much of it, you turn blue. So we know Tammy wasn't using a lot of it because she
But
wasn't
also,
blue.
Emma kept saying drinking it. Tammy was drinking colloidal silver. I don't like it. It tastes, metallic, but drinking it. You don't drink colloidal silver. You either spray it into your mouth, like as a spray bottle application, or you put droppers of it under your tongue. It's not like you're just
like
swigging
chugging it.
glasses full of it. That's just not even accurate at all.
Right. And if she had been doing that, her skin would turn blue. That's happened before. And so she was not taking any amount of it that would have been toxic.
No.
Because that has happened to people. We know about that.
Yeah.
She talked about that she bruised easily, whatever. As we start getting older, our skin gets thinner, and we do bruise easier. And that she used arnica gel to treat the bruises. Well, no shit, because she was smart and she took care of things. She was taking care of herself in doing these things.
All of the Tammy wouldn't take care of herself routine, only she was obviously taking care of herself.
She was obviously taking care of herself.
She would refuse to go to the doctor, except for that she'd just been to the doctor for a hurt wrist. But other than that, she refused to go to the doctor.
Right, yeah except she didn't, because there were medical records. The medical examiner's office looked at medical records all the way back to 2007. So, yeah, she did go to the doctor.
Yeah.
And they talked about the day that Tammy died, the day before Tammy died, and the infamous book fair. Oh my God, they are so deadly. I had no idea. The book fair was my favorite thing ever in elementary school. I had no idea. It was out killing my librarian.
Right. Librarians right and left are book fairing themselves to death, and you didn't even know it.
Yeah. Talking about how she was carrying these super heavy boxes, and she was just overloaded. And okay, so this she said, and this was so coached, and I don't even know if the jury caught it, but she was carrying them against her arms and against her body. Was that some kind of weird excuse for the bruises?
Probably.
I think that it was.
Was she carrying finger-shaped boxes?
Right. Yeah. But the way that she described so specifically where she held the box against her body and with her arms, I was like, yeah, they're going to try to say that was from the stupid, that's what caused the bruises.
But tell us again you weren't coached. Okay.
Yeah.
She was practically reading a script.
She was. I think, honestly, because it comes out in this conversation, that she speaks to Chad daily.
Yep.
She has been speaking to him while in jail daily for almost 4 years. Let me explain something that I think part of Emma's indoctrination as a Mormon is you don't seek information about Mormons outside of us. You only read and consume information and material and doctrine from within the church. Dad, this is my supposition, but Dad said, don't read anything, watch anything, or listen to anything about this case. The only information you need to know is what I will tell you.
And don't speak to law enforcement.
Yes, which is exactly then what John Pryor supported by saying it was part of my subpoena that she not watch this trial.
Mm-hmm.
So Emma is flying blind at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really gross. But you could tell, like, she was just listening to her dad, and whatever her dad said is what was true, and whatever, and that was it, you know? Yes, the phone calls are recorded, and when we get to Lindsay Blake, you will hear why that's very important, and I think we'll probably be hearing some of them.
Yep.
Let's see. So, one thing that was funny is that the day of the day before she died, guess who drove the Dodge Dakota to work? Tammy. Oh, she who never drives the Dodge Dakota, according to these idiots.
Because she always drives the nicer car, don't you know?
Yeah, well, it was a dig.
I mean, she is the person with the paycheck, so, and the person who works outside the home, so I don't know. Seems like that tracks to me.
Right. Well, and yes, her answers were way too fast. She answered Pryor's questions before he even asked them. It was like she knew what the next question was going to be, and she would say it before he even asked it of her. It was very obvious. And the way that she didn't even have to think about the answer. There was no pause between his question and her answer. She already knew what she was going to say. Absolutely knew, and knew what she was supposed to say. They asked about the Fitbit. The stupid Fitbit. This is the part that I feel like is the most important part about the Fitbit.
Part of why she wanted the Fitbit was to increase her physical fitness.
Okay. She was working on her physical fitness.
Yes, she had one. I had one. And she bought my dad one, but he wouldn't wear it.
So, I don't think she was all that sick, was she? She bought a Fitbit to work on her physical fitness, which is very clear in all of the things that she was doing.
Yeah.
They talked about these stupid competition with Joe Murray's parents, and Emma 100% sat right up there and said her mother was cheating by sitting on the couch and doing this with her arm. Well, guess what? That doesn't count as steps on your Fitbit. It doesn't work. There are ways to make that happen, and doing that is not it. But she said, Emma, my mom would call it exercising, and she's playing Candy Crush on her phone, and then she's doing this up and down with her arm because she wanted to beat Joe Murray's dad, Ed, in the Fitbit contest so bad. It was so ignorant and disparaging. I cannot imagine getting on the stand and saying disparaging things about my murdered mother.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that?
Or even deceased mother, since she refuses to believe she was murdered.
Right.
But the disparity between her saying that her mother was a deeply private, introverted person that didn't really talk to other people, which is not at all what her friends at school are saying, and the fact that she's in this exercise group with her daughter's in-laws, showing them her exercise logs, with her walking or her Fitbit stuff. That is a disparity to me that I can't really get my head around.
It's weird.
Highly private people and highly introverted people aren't sharing their exercise logs with other people and competing with them. That doesn't track for me at all.
No, and it doesn't track as a person who comes home and goes to bed before dinner because she's so ill. Everything she said was a contradiction.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. So then we get to the stupid 5K race. And, the thing with the 5K race, that the principal witnessed Tammy cross the finish line wearing a number, is that 5K was organized by Joseph Murray. So we can never trust whether or not Tammy was registered for that 5K. And Tammy told people at school, her coworkers, that she was training for a 5K. Emma said, oh, absolutely. She said, absolutely never she would do that. Never, never. Here's the other thing that we have to address, is that 5K was a fundraiser for Operation freaking Underground. Okay?
Of course it was.
Oh, Operation Underground Railroad, run by Tim Ballard. If you don't know about it, Oh, I shared this earlier. I'll share it in the chat again in a minute. A link to one of our shows about it. Operation Underground Railroad was raising all kinds of money because Tim Ballard was leading the charge to combat sex trafficking against children and women in other countries, primarily. And then actually just using the money for sex tourism. He's now facing all kinds of lawsuits, potentially sexual assault charges in multiple states. It was a huge grift. And they were raising money for it. Oh, yeah. Tim is Chad with a bigger grift. He absolutely is. He is a Visions of Glory aficionado. It's a very similar thought process.
Oh, yeah.
Tim is a disgusting bastard. And they were raising money for him.
You betcha. I did put in a link, but if you go search for that episode, we've actually done quite a few episodes about Tim, but the original biggie is The Ballad of Tim Ballard.
Yeah. Go watch that one. And then there are a bunch of others that you can find if you move forward. If you just search for Tim Ballard's name on our channel, you'll find a whole bunch of other things. We're going to get back to covering that case big time when we're done with this trial. But it just makes me so sick that that's what they were doing.
Yeah.
I fucking hate Tim Ballard, man.
I know we all that have been following Tim Ballard went, well, no shit.
Yeah,
it tracks.
That tracks.
Yep.
So they talk about the Zumba High Fitness class, and basically Emma says a bunch of shit that other people who attend that class said the opposite of. That, like, the lights were dimmed, so you really couldn't see what anyone else was doing, and, they were just mimicking. She just made it like Tammy was just stumbling around in this class. Except that is not what anyone else who had
laying flat on her back on the floor. Yeah.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. The clogging classes took place once a week on Wednesdays. This killed me. They went for about 6 weeks. Why did Tammy stop going to clogging? Because she died.
She said she didn't attend again after her death.
Yeah.
She said that.
It was the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Her pattern of speech is so bizarre and difficult to listen to.
Yeah.
It's wild. So then we get to the self-defense skills. And Emma says the most inane things, but this is coaching because no person would just say this shit. Well, no formal training, but there were classes at the church.
Yeah.
What does that mean? You went to classes. How is that not formal training?
Yeah.
But, somehow, again, disparaging Mom. Oh, well, it wasn't anything official. The police go around and teach self-defense in this area. We did it when we were younger. Yeah. I mean, it's a thing. I'm sure a lot of places do that.
Yeah. But Tammy wouldn't have to have gone to those. She chose to go to those.
Right.
It's certainly not required, but yet again, physicality that Tammy wasn't shying away from, she was going and benefiting from.
Yeah. Ooh, Brandon, really? Brandon says, I met Ballard twice, and both times had the most insane heebie-jeebies.
Ooh.
We have a cousin who has also met him and had the same experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then where do we get? Oh, so then we go through this stupid shit about the insurance. Oh my God, I'm so tired of listening to these people twist this situation. She says that they filled out their paperwork together and that they both signed to take out more life insurance on themselves and did not consult our husbands. Emma says, my ass they didn't. These women most certainly did consult their husbands. This is not common within their culture, and particularly the way that they were living their culture, to do something like that without. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then we get to the search. The computer search for the wind direction. Remember this? This happened the day before Tylee died. The day before her body was, at least the first attempt to burn her body happened. And Emma takes credit for the wind direction search. I have
Yeah.
a little clip of
And
that.
there was some testimony about a Google search for south-southwest wind. And that would have been on 9/8/19. Do you recall that?
I do.
And was that your father who did that search?
That was me.
And what was the purpose of doing that search?
I saw a rainstorm. We were planning an outdoor event, and I wanted to know if those clouds were coming our way.
She said she was playing amateurish an amateur meteorologist, and she did that search.
Yeah.
How fucking convenient.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then he asked her something about something that was directional, and she said, "I don't really know directions."
Right. Everything she says,
But yeah,
she contradicts her own dumb self. So she said that. We all know it's bullshit.
But also, what event? What event was that?
Yeah. What event was it? Let's see some proof of the event.
Yeah.
Certainly there wasn't any of that. So then they talked about like what was Tammy's job in the book, in the publishing company. You guys, listen to me. They were self-publishing books on Amazon.
Yeah.
They gave themselves a name of a publishing company.
Mm-hmm.
This is not the same as an actual publishing company that publishes books.
No.
Their books are published by Amazon, okay? And their books are not signed by any contracts or anything like that. The way that John Pryor describes it, it makes it seem a lot bigger than it is. They are self-publishing, and they've given themselves a name, and they've self-published for other authors as well. But these are books that are being published on Amazon.
We did the same thing years ago. And you know how easy it is to name yourself? We were Joyful Goddess Press. We still are. And all you have to do is register that name with the government and then use it. That's it.
Right.
And when you self-publish with Amazon, then you can also order your books at a fraction of the cost that they're charging to sell them, so that you can sell them yourself from their printing arm.
Which
this
is what
is not
Chad
hard.
was doing when he was out there selling his dumb books. Yeah. Okay. So that just drives me nuts because every time it comes up, I'm like, wait a minute. But basically, Tammy helped design the book covers. She did most of them herself. She also did the finances and taxes for the company. And Chad would try to find authors to have their books published. So what they were doing, Chad was writing his books. Tammy was editing them. And she was probably doing all the back end upload to KDP and all that shit.
Oh, I'm sure. Well,
and then they had other authors
the
coming
formatting
in
and stuff is kind of
yeah.
Yeah.
So they had other authors coming in doing the same thing who were likely paying them to do the editing and the cover and all that stuff. And so that's what they were doing. And it does sound like Tammy did the lion's share of the work to me.
Yeah. Well, Chad, it kills me because apparently Chad was employed at one point as an editor. Would you let Chad edit your book?
Imagine. No. Y'all have looked at some of his writing.
I'll stick with Grammarly, thank you. Yeah.
Yes, I cannot imagine. Okay, so then when they get to the house, the dumb house thing with stairs and all that, I'm like, how many times? Really? So they talked about the add-on to the house. She says it's unheated and has only a little bit of electricity. I mean, what does that mean?
I loved that. No, it just has electricity. You either have electricity or you don't have electricity. You don't just have a little bit of electricity. Yeah.
Yeah. Dumb. They went over that it was called the Cozy Cone, blah, blah. That the kids played musical instruments up there. And then Emma said it was really inconvenient to go there. You know, because you had to walk through the garage and then a little hallway and up the stairs. Yeah, that sounds terribly inconvenient. I mean, how could you be bothered?
You had to walk uphill in the snow both ways for 4 miles to get there.
Apparently. It's all very dramatic and pointless shit that she's saying. Emma asks, or Pryor asks if Emma and her siblings share their dad's religious beliefs. And you know they're going to separate themselves as much as they can. And Emma says that she feels drawn to some parts but not others. She talks about her views on light and dark, like if you're light, you're acting like the savior. If you're dark, you're acting like Satan, blah, blah, blah.
Right. But the thing is, she kind of tried to indicate, he asked her if that was a part of her LDS beliefs, and she said yes. Let's be really clear about that. No, it's not.
No.
There is no, I mean, light and dark in just general terms, sure. But there's no ranking people. There's no 3.2 dark or whatever.
No.
None of that is real. And I think we have to be really clear about that, because that's bullshit to say that that actually is a part of the LDS belief system, because it absolutely is not.
No, it is not. Now, they were raised with a dad that believes this shit and taught them a lot of things. And so they think things that aren't mainstream at all. Thank you. That's my kitty, Sandy. She loves to come and go and sit behind me and sit in my lap and rub her face on my microphone and all kinds of stuff while I'm on the air. So I'm glad you like her. She is a beautiful lady. If you can imagine, she is 14. If you saw her mouth, you'd know that, because she only has 3 teeth.
Did you also catch that part that Tammy learned about muscle testing and various things from her parents? So Tammy's parents were holistic. No wonder Tammy was. She learned that's the way she was raised. I just wanted to share you something, since we're talking about light and dark. Everyone who has ordered a sticker pack, your sticker packs went out over the weekend. And I added a couple of additional stickers. I made a couple of bonus stickers from things you guys suggested. So that's the 3.4 dark sticker.
Love it.
It's so pretty. Anyway, now you all get to be 3.4 dark if you ordered a sticker pack.
I love it. Right, exactly. Kristonia, LDS beliefs in her house. They definitely had some things that I wouldn't call mainstream.
But also, this whole conversation made me uncomfy, because in one point they said something about, is your dad used to being in charge? Well, as the patriarch of our family, of course he is.
Oh, well, I'm glad you like that section, because I have that video. Let's see. Maybe. Oh, here we go.
That I recall.
You've been talking with your dad almost daily over the last several years, correct?
Yes.
Lots of conversations with your dad.
Yes.
Do you recall your dad in early June of 2020 telling you not to cooperate with law enforcement?
I don't remember him saying that.
You don't remember a phone call in which he relayed to you, probably better if you just don't cooperate?
I don't remember that.
Do you remember then telling the FBI you were not going to meet with them anymore?
Sorry, that's not the patriarch quote, but that is the whole point here, guys.
Right.
But Emma has been being influenced for almost 4 years.
Right. But the thing to me about that was she and Garth both. Well, I mean, yeah, I believe my dad, but I don't believe all of his beliefs. I stick to the church, but no.
Well, you have to understand that they have been at risk of excommunication. Their dad was excommunicated for this stuff. They're going to say what they need to say so that they are not at that risk too. We've seen that with Melanie Gibb. We've seen it with David Warwick, Zulema. They're all trying to toe the line because they know they could be excommunicated for these things.
But it's just not true. It's just not true.
Isn't.
Thank you, Bobcat, so much. The super chat is on, by the way. If you want to tip us, you're welcome to.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Emma did say that her mother did assign people numbers of light and dark. So this was a thing that both parents talked about, and we know that. That's already come out in testimony.
From the text messages.
Yeah, that they were doing that. And that Tammy was doing it as well. Emma talks about having struggles with anxiety. And that she felt like, I'm just going to say what her words were. I felt like there was a being that was with me. I talked to my parents about it, and my dad cast it out using the power of the priesthood. Then I felt better afterward. So, I mean, we've talked about that using priesthood blessings and that's a thing in the
Yeah.
Mormon Church, and that is how she viewed that experience, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
see. So they talk a little bit about what the priesthood is, and that men who are any man who is an adult, which isn't true actually. This starts at age 12. So any male age 12 or older who makes promises to keep the teachings of the church with the gets the power to receive the priesthood.
Mm-hmm.
She said it's common for people in her faith to give blessings,
Mm-hmm.
as long as the man giving the blessing is eligible to have the priesthood.
That was something.
I did love that because we all know Chad was most definitely not eligible because he was having an affair.
And I love that Lindsay made her say it.
She did. Yeah, it was great. It was great.
Yeah, her husband could have likely done it then. Yes.
Yeah, he could have. So they talked about, that this, if casting out that spirit would have caused her to die. And it says, no, the goal is to have your own body back and be in control of yourself. Pryor wants to know if she's ever heard the word zombies. Emma says, just on TV. So, I mean, it's clear that what he was doing at home with his own family was at a different level than what he was doing with the seven gatherers. He took that to a different level.
Yeah.
But then we had a moment that I've giggled about all day because John Pryor got his ass handed to him by the judge yet again. So I'm just gonna, this is all about the book, The Emotion Code. He was trying to bring information about that. We've talked about it before. The Emotion Code and the Body Code are two kind of holistic energy healing kinds of books that they were using as part of their practice.
Yeah.
And John Pryor was trying to get some information about the Emotion Code in, and Lindsay Blake was objecting and objecting and objecting that it's irrelevant. And so then, let's see. Where did my video go? Oh, why is it not here? Well, we'll talk about some other things and I will find it because I thought I uploaded it here and it's not here. But I can get it from where I am. So anyway, they were talking about all of that, and Pryor, you know how he is. He kept talking over the judge, and he kept trying to say pretty much the same thing again. And
and Emma kept answering questions that were objected to before there could be a ruling. She did that several times.
She did, yeah.
Yeah.
I felt like she'd been coached to answer as quickly as possible because if they get their answer in before the objection happens,
it's too late.
That's it. They say it's untimely, and then you're too late, and so then it just gets in. But I'm downloading this little video. Apparently, I didn't get it out of Canva. I thought I did.
Thank you, Gran, and thank you, Neil.
Of the judges' smackdown, because you guys, just does my heart good whenever this happens. Because we all know Pryor doesn't really know what he's doing in this criminal case. We've seen it many times where he does not follow procedure because he doesn't even know what procedure is or how to. So here's a little moment between Pryor and Judge Boyce.
I am going to sustain the objection. There's been no relevance established for this, Mr. Pryor.
Well, I was trying to establish by having her talk about the emotion code, Judge.
Well, that's backwards of how we get evidence in. So please see either ask additional foundation or ask another topic.
I will say, however, that a brilliant listener came across something, a marriage announcement for John Pryor, like a super long time ago, in Canyon County, and he was working as a prosecutor. Like I'm talking about many decades ago, but he was a prosecutor in Meridian once upon a very long time ago.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Well, I guess becoming a defendant made him not like that. I have no idea. I'm just talking shit because I think it's funny. So, Emma says that her dad wrote fiction and nonfiction books. Okay. and that
No, we know.
yeah. She was trying to say that his inspiration was from more traditional Latter-day Saint church stuff and his own ideas. What she was trying to say is that a lot of what he has talked about and taught and goes back to basically the original Mormon church, because the doctrine has changed very significantly over time. And so he was kind of going from what Joseph Smith originally taught and some of what Brigham Young taught. And as we know, there is a book written by him. There's actually a trilogy written by him in which he writes for Emma.
Yeah.
I'm going to show it to you here. I'm just going to show it to you on Amazon because I think that's the best way to do it. This is book 1. An errand for
Emma. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that picture is a little.
You're not on screen. Let me see if I can get it there.
Oh,
there we go.
Thank you. So here's An Errand for Emma. It is a trilogy. And this book was written for her, kind of about her in her past. I don't know. The picture's pretty flattering, I would say.
Of not Emma. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, you think about, he's been indoctrinating her entire life with this stuff, to the point that he wrote this book and then this trilogy of books kind of about her. So what she is growing up with is not real.
Yeah.
She's growing up outside of reality from day one in her life. When you look at stuff like this, you realize what is, the non-reality that she has been a part of.
Yep.
And to her, it just seems normal. And you guys, I guess, I mean, I'm not trying to defend Emma, because holy shit, after today, punch a bitch, man. Not really, but think about it. But we do understand this in that if you are born into an ideology that you are then indoctrinated into, you grow up believing all of it's true and not having any doubts about it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that, I just always come back to that. Then we get to, Pryor doesn't want to call Chad and Tammy names, but would Emma think that they might be sort of bookworms? He was kind of trying to ask if her parents were nerds, I think,
Right.
But then how introverted they both were. Her dad is very introverted. The guy who likes to go public speaking and teaching about his books. Yeah,
and
he's an introvert.
Put books out there. I have had so many clients over the years that want to write a book or have written a book or totes of books that never have seen the world because they're too afraid, because they are so introverted and it's so hard for them to bear themselves to the world.
Right.
That is not Chad at all. Not at all.
It is. If you have ever put a book out of your own, it is. It's tough.
It is taking your clothes off in public. Yeah.
It is. It really is. Yeah. And so this bullshit about him being an introvert is not true. I do not believe that for 1 second.
No.
Let's see. So then she says she has read all of her dad's books. The indoctrination is deep here.
Well, remember that part of the reason he doesn't like Sam, Tammy's sister, is that she wouldn't read his books?
Yes.
Yeah.
She wouldn't read his dumb books. Yeah.
Yep.
Then they have a very kind of odd conversation about the night of the shooting at Tammy. Pryor wants to know if Tammy was familiar with paintball guns. She sort of tries to say that she is when it's pretty clear she isn't. And then she says this contradictory thing. So what she says is that on the night of October 9th, Tammy dropped Emma off from her clogging class and then immediately went home that night, which is literally across the street.
Yeah.
And then what I don't quite understand about that is that what Tammy reported is that she had been to like Relief Society that night.
So
where
enrichment
they
night.
had
Yeah.
where they had made a whole bunch of pre-made meals that you like freeze.
Mm-hmm.
And so
She was trying to
Tammy
get them
did-
out of her car when the shooter showed up.
Yeah. And I don't know if it was they went to enrichment, then they went to clogging, because Tammy did say in a letter to her son that to Mark, who was on a mission, that she thought about hitting the guy with her clogging shoes. So maybe
Yeah.
it was both, but it was not. It was a real departure from
What
what
we'd
we
heard.
know to be the case, what we know that Tammy
Mhm.
herself reported in that situation, which I thought was weird.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. And then Tammy didn't even tell Emma about this, about the shooting that night.
No.
She read it on her mom's Facebook page, which I thought was odd.
Mm-hmm.
They're so close, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so then Pryor asks if her mom was sure it was a paintball gun, and she said yes.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter. Does not
Mhm.
matter.
Right.
You know? So then they talk about when Emma got to her parents' home when Tammy died. And I will say that John offered her, if she needs a break or anything, during this time.
Or a sip of water.
Or a sip of water.
Mm-hmm.
And Emma shed nary a tear, you guys.
No.
Nothing.
She missed the
No
cue
emotional
entirely.
Yeah,
He actually
well,
gave
they
her the
both
cue
did.
2 times.
Yes.
But if you need a break, if you need a tissue. And she was just like, okay, nothing.
But no
2 times.
No response, no emotional response. Can you imagine having to explain on the stand in court what was happening, what was going through your mind, and what you were experiencing when you find out your mom's dead?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the vast majority of us would cry, would tear
Yeah.
up, at least tear up, if not full on cry, right?
Well, yeah.
Nothing. So she says that she got there before 7 a.m. and that Coroner Dye was inspecting her mom's body.
Mm-hmm.
And that she asked them some questions about their wishes, that she offered an autopsy, said that the body would have to be taken to Boise, right? Which is about 5 hours away, and it would delay the funeral.
Mm-hmm.
And then Emma said the weirdest thing I've ever fucking heard.
This fool.
I don't think autopsies should be done on anyone.
Ever.
Anyone. Ever. What?
Holy
You don't think
shit.
we should ever find out how people die when they're murdered? Really? Like, it was such a strange thing to say.
Yeah.
And it was unprovoked. Pryor didn't ask for anything. She just said that. It was so freaking weird.
Well, Pryor has worked so hard to demonize the autopsy.
Mm-hmm.
And of course she popped off with that. That was very curious.
It was so strange. I was like, what do you mean? Ever? Anyone? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
We should just always bury people who've been murdered so no one knows that there are murderers running around? Like, it was super weird.
Or if a family wakes up in the morning and their 3-year-old has passed in the night, you don't want to know why? Like,
right.
There's the health reasons too. I mean, there's lots of reasons to do an autopsy. That was crazy.
Right. It was very unhinged. It made me really uncomfortable to hear her say that. Like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
So then she says that her dad was very distressed in not speaking, so he didn't say anything about whether there should be an autopsy or not.
Mm-hmm.
And that Emma told the coroner that she didn't want an autopsy, and that Chad nodded.
Mm-hmm.
She also said that her dad never expressed an opinion on whether there should be an autopsy or not. Well, he didn't have to, because Emma did it for him. Duh. Except I think he did. But you know
Well,
what I
right.
mean? Like she,
It was the deputy coroner
yes,
who did testify that Chad is the one who told her no autopsy. Yeah.
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 So, I mean, weird. It was weird. All of that was really weird. She also said her dad was emotionally out of control and that she had never seen him upset and that she was afraid, that it was scary to her.
Yeah.
I thought, that's a weird thing to say. Why would it be scary? Why would you be afraid?
To an adult.
Yeah.
An adult. Maybe a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old when dad is that
Right.
upset. It's scary, but to a grown
But an
adult?
adult?
Yeah.
That was really, really strange.
Mm-hmm.
So then they jump, the way that Pryor jumps, I mean, it just gives everyone whiplash.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the other thing Emma said that was so weird. I know the grief he felt was real. He may not have had the same romantic relationship with my mother that he had in the past. Sleeping separately? I'm going to guess yes.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew he valued her as a person, and seeing her die was very traumatic. What?
Right.
That
Seeing
was
her
weird.
die?
Seeing her die.
We didn't think that happened, but
Right? I thought he just woke up and she was dead. What the hell?
yeah. Well, but the person running the business and bringing home the paycheck did die. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was really strange.
Yeah.
So then we jump ahead in time to Pryor starts asking about when they take the trip to California, go to Knott's Berry Farm over Thanksgiving break.
Mm-hmm.
Chad, Emma, and her husband, their son, Leah, her husband, and their son, and Garth went on this trip. Except so did Lori Vallow, but they kind of get to that slowly.
Mm-hmm.
They say they drove to Salt Lake, where they flew out to Knott's Berry Farm, and that Chad told them that he was then moving temporarily to Hawaii.
Yeah.
One of the things that they're trying to say here is that Chad was planning to move to Hawaii and it wasn't running. He wasn't on the run when he went to Hawaii. It was only Lori who was on the run, who, you know, was with him and married to him. But
yeah,
I mean,
but he was going there to write a book.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was interesting. So then she says that Lori arrived by vehicle in California like the next day. So I don't know what
and
that
the talk
really
of
is
Lori,
about.
yeah, the talk of Lori was highly contested with the prosecution.
Mm-hmm.
There was
Yes.
a couple of big fights over what they could and couldn't say about Lori and Emma's conversations with Lori, and the prosecution won them. Yeah.
They did, because they were trying to use the hearsay exception for Emma to be able to say what Lori told her.
Mm-hmm.
And it does not apply to
No.
Emma. And yeah, there was a big to do about that. They had to take the jury out, you know.
Yeah.
That whole thing. One thing that was interesting about today, just in general, is that the gallery was full and they actually had to turn away some people this morning.
Yeah.
They were actually giving tickets out to people who were in the courtroom so that they could get back in after lunch. And we got an email this afternoon from the trial court administrator saying that they are reinstating the ticket reservation system for next week.
Yeah.
And Nate said that this was the most people that have shown up for court by far.
Yeah.
So interesting. Everybody wants to see what the hell's going to happen with the defense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's see. So then they argue over the Lori thing, and basically, no, everything that she heard from Lori is hearsay, and she cannot quote it on the stand.
I think that probably was another pretty good blow to Pryor, because I'm
I think
suspecting he had quite a bit to say to her about what Lori said to her, or to question her about.
Because what he was trying to get into is, what did Lori say about where the kids were?
Yeah.
Finally, so Pryor gets it through by saying, was the location of the children ever discussed? Emma says, yes, from my understanding, I was told that the children were in a safe place. Oh, buried in the backyard. Doesn't seem real safe. So then they go back to the funeral planning. And this is such bullshit. Okay, so what happened is that Tammy's body went to Flam Funeral Home in Rexburg. But her funeral was actually in Springville, Utah. So they are saying that Flam Funeral Home, this is what Emma says, they gave them the choice of a Tuesday funeral or a Saturday funeral. They weren't planning that funeral with Flam Funeral Home, you guys. They didn't do the funeral. They were planning that with the funeral home in Springville. But this was some kind of bullshit story to say why they did the service so quickly. Is because the funeral home said it had to be, but that's not true.
But the funeral home in Utah said that they were pushing for a Monday or Tuesday funeral, and the soonest they could do it was Tuesday.
Right. That was such BS. It really that really bothered me because we know the Flam Funeral Home did our dad's funeral. Okay, we've been to a zillion funerals at Flam.
Yeah.
That is not that is not why they chose that Tuesday. Not at all.
No.
Right, and yeah, Chad could have picked the Saturday, which would have made a lot more sense. It was a whole week away. It was on a weekend. It gave people more time. Like, there was all the reason to do that. Especially where they were transporting their body from one state to another. But again, it doesn't matter what Flam Funeral Home said. They didn't hold the funeral.
Yep.
So that was just weird to me, and bullshit. Like, more bullshit.
Yeah.
She said that the reason that they chose Springville is because Tammy lived there the most of her life. Also, get this. And also, there was a family graveside plot. It was a single plot. It's next to a tree. They're like the cheap plots because you can't put people by them.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Mormons who are sealed in the Mormon temple, married and have children, they are buried side by side. That is by far, and it's not everyone, but the most common thing around here is that it would have been a double plot so that there was a spot for Chad when he also passed away. Because remember, they're married for time and all eternity.
Yeah. But LDS couples are always buried in a double plot. Always. Yeah.
That's how this works. And she was buried in a single plot. And we've talked about her headstone and how weird it is and how it was, very clearly that Chad was moving on with his life without having anything to do with her. When did Chad buy that plot? Chad didn't buy that plot. Tammy's family already had that plot.
Yeah.
So this is a thing when our mom died. The cemetery where our parents are buried is land that was actually owned by our great-great-grandfather, and he donated it to the county or whatever for a cemetery. So our great-uncle John owns a bunch of plots in that cemetery. And he gave us a double plot when our mom died for our parents.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's a rather common thing for family to own plots. My mother-in-law has already let Rhonda know that they have a double for Rhonda and I. We were like, we seem a bit young for this conversation. Not that it's not appreciated, but we were both like, oh God, we're not really thinking about that right now. But anyway, so all of it, so weird. So they just had an extra plot. Probably there are other family members in that same area, and they had one plot.
Yeah.
So they just put her there.
Yeah.
Weird, just more weirdness.
So Jacqueline wants to know, who is Chad sealed to now? Both of them? In the eyes of the LDS Church, neither of them.
Yeah.
Because he and Tammy, he's been excommunicated, meaning that he's all of his blessings and privileges of the church have been revoked. So he's not sealed to Tammy, and he also isn't sealed to Lori for the same reason, but also he and Lori, the sealing they did in the temple wasn't an official sealing in the eyes of the church. That was some bullshit thing they did. So he's not sealed to
Right.
anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's see. Then they start talking about the stupid pet cemetery.
Mhm.
God, I'm tired of this. And so, they have a sidebar because then they're going to talk about the raccoon text.
Mhm.
The raccoon text that literally broke this freaking case.
Mhm.
Some brilliant FBI analyst went, that is sketchy, and sent that over to the investigators, who then used cell phone GPS location stuff to discover that, yeah, that was a real weird day in that family, and that is literally how they found the kids' bodies.
Mhm.
So, Pryor just wants to try to discredit everything, things that are stupid. So Pryor asks Emma if there are animals on the property that have been buried on the property after they've been shot. Which, ick.
Yeah.
And he wants to know, like, what kind of animals visit her dad's property.
He
She
says,
said that,
let's go through the list.
yes.
The list. What list would that be, John? The list?
Yeah. What
Yeah.
list are we talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So she says that there were lots of cats. They live by a busy highway, and that stray cats would get hit and killed, and that Tammy felt bad for them. And so she would bury them in the pet cemetery.
Yep.
She also said there were dogs, chickens, ducks, raccoons, and sometimes sparrows that were buried in the pet cemetery. Things get real dicey about that when they talk to Garth.
Yeah.
Then,
She also said that Tammy is the manager, or Pryor did, the manager of the pet cemetery. The fuck? The manager, huh?
That is so weird. What a weird thing to say.
Yeah.
But then he said the thing that just sealed the deal over about Chad forever, and that is that her dad did not have a dog because he doesn't like dogs.
Yep.
Like, anybody else have like a huge red flag when someone says to me, I don't like dogs? And I don't mean like you don't want to have a dog as a pet, that's fine. Different, but I don't like dogs?
Right.
You know why people don't like dogs? It's because dogs don't like them. And you know why dogs don't like them? Because there's something sketchy about them.
Right.
I mean, really.
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever had somebody in your life that your dog hates? And you're like, I'm immediately suspicious of you.
Yeah.
Because why would my dog not like you? Yeah.
Yeah.
So the dog thing was like, oh, man.
That was the smoking gun. I was like, I put it in Twitter. I'm like, all right, guilty. Guilty. We're done.
Well,
yep.
Well, because guys, I'll bet you that nearly every house in that neighborhood where that house is has at least one dog. Like, Idahoans are dog people. There are a gajillion dogs in the
Well, and out in the country, they all have dogs. Yeah.
They do. They have dogs on their farms, and yeah, that was weird. Emma had a dog at her house.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was just a strange exchange that I was like, well, first of all, that was unnecessary information. Secondly, yikes. So then they start talking about law enforcement and how law enforcement has been really hassling them, guys. They have been picking on them big time.
Yeah.
And she talks about contacting Dave Hope because there was an incident that happened with her brother. Yeah, when they arrested him, because they thought that possibly Garth actually had something to do with Tammy's death.
Yeah.
And when you hear the clips I have of him, you're going to wonder too.
Yeah.
Really. Like, this was so bizarre to me. So she talked about Detective Hope. And that she had talked with that she felt like she was under scrutiny as part of this case. Yeah, duh.
Yeah.
She said yes, any interaction with law enforcement. She talked about a time when she and her sister-in-law were at the gym, and Detective Hermosillo came and started exercising near them. She said, we were in the part of the gym where there were light weights, and they just seemed too light for him. We think he was listening in on our conversation. No shit, Sherlock. There were kids missing, and you guys were refusing to cooperate with police. Were they following you around, seeing what you were doing? Of course they were.
Yeah. Missing kids, you bitch. Missing kids.
It's so gross for her and Garth both to be mad about this, considering what the police were trying to do.
Right. Missing and then murdered kids, and they're trying to solve this, and you are offended about that. Yeah. That says everything about what you're up to. Everything.
Yeah, it does. Also, Emma said that a Madison County detective confronted her in the hallway at church.
Yeah.
And it was really uncomfortable, and she never went back to that congregation. Oh, well.
But did he? Because what did he say? Who was it? What actually happened?
Right.
No information
all this
at
is
all.
Just her word.
Well, especially because then Garth was like, dirty looks at church. Oh, so is that what it was? Someone looked at you sideways at church? I'm guessing that's all it was, because there was nothing else to that story at all. But also, when Hermosillo was exercising next to them, he never spoke to them. He didn't do anything.
He never said a word. He was just in the same gym, guys.
Yeah.
And Rexford is a very small town, so it is very easy to be running into people. For example, at the same church.
Yeah.
Also easy to have happen. So then she says she did meet with Detective Hope. He came to her school, like in the afternoon, to talk with her. And she wanted to ask him what was going on, why he was contacting members of her family. And he was asking her where Chad was. She says that they had given him her dad's phone number and that he was in Hawaii. And he said that they had no way of contacting him. And she said, that seemed untrue. Except we know that Chad was not responding to any contact by the police. So they didn't, because they didn't actually know where he was living at this point. You know? Right, Rosalind? It's nothing like the looks they will get after this. I know. Can you imagine what those school employees from Tammy's elementary school must think about this little shit after this?
Can you imagine what the parents...
They probably already know.
Yeah. Can you imagine what the parents of the kids in their classes must think right now? If my third grader was in Emma Murray's class right now, I'd be calling the school, saying, I don't want my kid in her class for another day. Now, school's almost out for the year, but I wouldn't want my kids in either one of those two classes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And which phone? Exactly. Yeah, which phone? Which number? And they weren't answering any of them. And Hawaii. She just says Hawaii. Hawaii as in multiple islands. Like, it is not just a given that you will know where someone is if they're in Hawaii. Yeah. So, let's see. Oh, gosh. And then we get to June 9th. The day the bodies were found, the day Chad was arrested. Pryor wants to know if Emma saw her dad leaving at a high rate of speed when he left the house that day.
Oh,
now, listen, we all know, because it's been joked about as a low speed chase, that he didn't take off quickly. He did, however, try to drive off while they were searching his house, and the police caught up with him, and that's when they arrested him. She said the speed limit is 50 miles an hour, and she saw him drive that speed. Whatever that means.
But did she? Because the roads were closed within about a mile radius all the way around Chad's house at that moment. So there was a blockade of police cars that he was driving towards. And I know this because I was out there. I was there. And we had to take
Right.
multiple back roads and stuff to get to the media landing area, a staging area
Yeah.
for the first press conference because they had it all blocked off. So Chad, I don't know how fast he was getting up to going in a mile before they pulled him over because the road was literally closed with police cars blocking it all the way across. That story never tracks for me at all.
Yeah. He just panicked and he was trying to get out of there.
Yeah.
But, you know, Pryor tries to make it seem like he wasn't running. He was going to go see his attorney. Who was his attorney? John Pryor. Where was he? Meridian, Idaho. 5 hours away.
They actually had mentioned
He
Mark
was gonna
Means
go
in
to
the
his attorney.
in the cop cam when she
They
talked
did, but
to
they
him.
also mentioned they also
John
said
Pryor.
John Pryor's name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Either
Yeah.
way, he was going to Boise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was not just a I'm going to run to my attorney's office. That was I'm fleeing to another part of the state.
Yeah.
Yes, Nate Eaton was in a helicopter. Yes, East Idaho News had their helicopter out that day because you couldn't get close to the property.
Yep.
So that was a whole lot of bullshit. Oh, then he just bounced. The way that Pryor bounces around drives me nuts. I can't imagine how much the jury must hate it. Then he goes back to Tammy's funeral. Wants to know if what she thought of her father's emotions on that day. Typical for any grieving Latter-day Saint husband. She said because Latter-day Saints believe they will be resurrected and be with their families forever, and so it's not a goodbye forever, and that he was crying and he also laughed and smiled at times. It was so gross. What a gross, weird thing to say.
Yeah.
Considering all of this shit.
Especially for an unexpected death. If you were talking about somebody who had just been wasting away from cancer for 2 years or something, and there is some relief there and there's some joy there that they're finally out of that, body or whatever, I could see that a little differently than someone who died suddenly and went through the funeral together in 3 days and he's sad sometimes and happy sometimes.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
This was a tragic, unexpected death. There is, no.
Yeah.
Just creepy. Just always making excuses for his behavior.
Yeah.
So that's when Pryor's done. And that's when we get to Lindsay Blake, our hero.
Lindsay F. Blake, man.
I'm so glad it was her with Emma.
So
it needed to be her with Emma.
Yes.
This needed to be a woman who was not going to put up with any bullshit.
Boy, Emma's disdain was dripping.
Yeah. So, so was Lindsay's.
Oh, yeah. I'll give you that.
She was very kind and she spoke to her kindly, but she did not put up with any shit. Lindsay's very good at that. She, brings out the point that, yes, Emma talks to her dad almost daily. Emma, she asks again. In early June of 2020, Chad told Emma not to cooperate with law enforcement. And then Emma no longer met with the FBI.
Yep.
Emma says her dad did not say that to her, but this was after he was arrested, so they have recordings of her saying that.
Yep.
We will likely see that in rebuttal.
Yep.
Blake asks a bunch of questions about if Emma recalls talking to her dad about the 5K race and her dad saying certain things. Emma doesn't recall. Blake asks her about her dad telling Emma about Zumba. She says her dad has never told her to say anything. Whatever.
Yeah. So Lindsay wouldn't be asking you if she didn't have receipts, but thanks for that because you opened the door for her to be able to bring them up in rebuttal. So
right,
go
that's
Emma.
Exactly what the point
Yep.
was. Getting her to lie on the stand means they can come back in rebuttal with the recordings.
Yep.
Emma had at some point mentioned the anemia again, and so I mean, come on. And so Blake asks if it would surprise Emma to learn that there's no mention of anemia in her medical records.
She really pulled out a John Pryor card today with all of that. Would it surprise you to learn?
Yeah, she did that a bunch, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
She said she visited the doctor in 2019, the year she died, that there was no mention of anemia or sleep apnea. Emma says she isn't surprised because her mother just treated herself naturally. She said her mother never went to the doctor, except that they do, in fact, have evidence that
she did.
She did.
And yeah, not only visits to the doctor, but prescriptions. Yeah. You know where you get prescriptions, right, Emma? The doctor? Yeah.
Here's a real mic drop moment with Lindsay and Emma that will really um, sum up this whole thing.
She had been sick that night. I stay up later when I'm sick and have just thrown up as well.
Were you there that night?
No,
Did you see her throw up?
no,
So you don't know.
nope,
You only know what you were told.
yes.
You only know what you were told.
Yep.
There you go. I did miss one. I missed one that I want to share with you. This was actually, oh no, this is Blake too. Let me share this.
Was it pretty common for your dad to be in control and in charge?
Yes, as the patriarch of our home.
And you were asked about how your dad seemed when your mom passed away. Do you recall that?
Yes,
Did your dad ever share with you a text to Lori
no,
that was sent on less than 24 hours after your mother's passing on October 20th of 2019?
my dad didn't share text messages with me.
So would it surprise you to learn that your dad texted that he was sad, but not for the reasons everyone thought?
Well, when I
But
first,
yes or no?
oh,
Would it surprise you to learn that?
no,
Would it surprise you to know that, Emma? Would it?
Mhm.
And she was just kind of befuddled. She didn't know what to say.
Would it surprise you to know that your dad was only pretending to be sad that your mother was dead? Would it surprise you?
But I mean, think about this for a minute. If Emma's only frame of reference for this entire thing has been Chad, if she has been the dutiful daughter and paid no attention to the news, the podcasts, the documentaries, the trial of Lori, his
Mhm.
trial, is she learning this stuff for the first time?
I think
I
it's
mean, I think
possible.
there's a case to be made that is the case
Mhm.
here.
Yep.
From some of the things that she said, it very much seemed to me like she's just reporting only what she's been told, and so
Yep.
she doesn't know.
Yep.
She knows what her dad has told her to say, and that's
Mhm.
all she knows.
Yep.
Um,
Somebody wondered if we just would speak for a second about how we felt like the prosecution did today. Wondered if they didn't go hard enough or how we thought they did. I thought they did great. I think you have to be
I did too.
careful not to go too hard at a victim's children,
Yeah.
and that going too hard on them might have actually soured the jury. So there's a line there. You got to be careful. But
Right.
I feel like they did a great job of opening the doors that needed to be opened so that they can come back on rebuttal and just smash the shit out of what was said today. And that's what
Yeah.
they're going to do. So personally,
That's the main point.
I was satisfied. Yeah.
Yeah. I was too. Because, yeah, it doesn't matter what these people are saying. The jury knows that these are the children of the defendant.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to say whatever they need to say to
Mm-hmm.
try to save their dad. They've made that very
Yeah.
clear. And so you can't trust
Yeah.
what they're saying. And if they are lying, then the prosecution now has the opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to come back and with the receipts, play the call. Play
Mm-hmm.
the call where her dad says, you know, say this about that and don't talk about that and don't speak to the police and it's just better if you don't get involved and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's what they're doing right now.
Yeah.
Is they're just setting that up.
Mm-hmm.
So, Lindsay just pushed Emma a little bit, not a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Good heavens, I don't know what just drove by my house. That was a terrible sound. That was very weird. I don't know what that was. So they talked a little bit more about she just basically tested her credibility on a lot of things and gave her a point, an opportunity to lie and set herself up so that they can come back on it. So, and they played the car cam video that we've already seen.
Yeah.
Where they're discussing money and they're discussing how he's not coming back and she's going to move into his house and take care of his finances and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty important for people to hear, you know, that, yeah, this is the conversation that was had. Let's see. And then let's get to Garth.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, Garth.
Holy smokes.
So Garth is the oldest child in this family, and he was living at home when Tammy died. I didn't realize Garth was the oldest. Garth appears to have some struggles.
Yeah.
Maybe some intellectual struggles, some emotional struggles. I think that's pretty clear. They were talking about. They talked about who drove the stupid Dodge Dakota.
This was a great moment.
This really got confused. He got so confused about that, and then he told a weird story. He said his mom drove the Dakota before 2017, and I don't know. It got real confused, like he wasn't sure. So then Pryor asks him about the raccoons, guys. The hordes of raccoons that are attacking these innocent people.
And getting into the rabbit food, they just can't seem to put away any other way. Yeah.
So Garth says, this is 2019. That summer I was testing out a new tent in the back field and I heard a rustling. I went out and looked up into the tree and there was a raccoon there. I ran inside and told my dad. This guy is an adult human being, okay?
He was like 28. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was very close to where our rabbits were being kept. I told my dad. He grabbed the shotgun and shot the raccoon. And that was around 10 p.m. Okay. So the raccoons were eating their rabbit food, and they were afraid they were going to start going after their rabbits, which they could. Raccoons do kill small animals. That's a thing.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the thing, though. He says in 2019 they caught 3 to 4 raccoons. He said caught, but I think shot. They
were trapping some from a trap from a neighbor, but I think they were
right.
trapping them and then shooting them in the trap.
That's right.
Yeah.
Horrible. God, I hate stuff like that. Then they buried them. Where would you think they buried them? Because it was not in the pet cemetery where this whole fucking stupid raccoon story has come from. They were burying them in the compost heap behind the silver shed.
Yeah.
Pryor asked if other animals were buried in other places on the property, and Garth said the animals that were pets were buried by the raspberry patch in the pet cemetery. You know who's not in the pet cemetery? Raccoons.
Yeah.
So that's a direct contradiction of this.
But it was getting pretty full back there.
Yeah, apparently, because Garth said there were a lot of raccoons.
So I took a drive out there this afternoon.
Yeah, tell us about this.
Because I was curious, because I'm like, what silver shed? I'm thinking about the house and the other stuff and the the red barn, but
barn thing. And
what is the silver shed? So, and this is a different shot than you guys have seen before because it's behind the house instead of like the side view that you've always seen. This is the other side. This is the back side. So here's the silver shed. It's right next to the red shed barn thing. This is between the barn and the house. If you can picture that.
Between them. Oh, okay. Okay.
A little closer to the
barn
house.
And the house. So we've seen from behind the barn a lot. This is in front of the barn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is over. So this is the back side of the property. We've never really shared any footage from that side of the property before. And I wish I had gotten a little bit more than this, but I wasn't driving the car. But at any rate, this is the shed. So somewhere back here, they're saying there was a compost heap, and that's where they were burying all of the hordes of raccoons that they were shooting.
In a compost heap, which we had a big conversation about that in the chat during the show about that doesn't seem right. Why are you burying? You don't put dead animals in a compost heap.
Odd. Yeah.
Gross. So, yeah. So, but guys, there were freaking hordes of raccoons out there, according to Garth. There were a lot of raccoons. Okay. Okay. Well, whatever. There was a weird situation when we went to lunch today. Two or 3 times, Boyce called for a sidebar himself. And the judge doesn't do that very often. And when we've seen it before, it was because of Zulema's attorney being in the courtroom. We don't know what these sidebars were about. They never really said. But one of them was, we have a witness management issue. So they had a sidebar, went to lunch, and we never really got any information about what that meant.
Yeah.
So
Garrett Smith was in the courtroom. Why? Does that mean that Pryor's going to call Zulema?
Makes you wonder.
Zuluma, as Pryor calls her?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And the raccoon thing, yes, raccoons primarily come out at night. They're nocturnal animals.
Yeah,
so
you rarely see them during the day.
Line at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, not common. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, but Chad never uses guns except when he's shooting raccoons. He does.
Yeah.
I don't know. And yes, Garth had his lawyer there. We'll get to that. That was the weirdest bunch of bullshit I've seen in a long time. Yeah. So they come back in, and then Pryor, even though he's already been questioning Garth for a while, has to come back and say, now, how many times have we met? And have we ever spoken to you? And have I told you what to say? And he said, you told me to tell the truth. But I don't think that Garth would know what the truth was if it smacked him in the forehead. Honestly. I question if he has a clear memory. Because he has a lot of versions of a lot of things.
Yeah.
So Garth told us he's an 8th grade science teacher at Madison Junior High. That's terrifying, frankly, after listening to him talk. And he was also working as a scare person at the Haunted Mill in Teton. We've been to that. Oh my God, I hate the Haunted Mill so much. There are a lot of Halloween scary things to do around here. I assume a lot of places have them. The Haunted Mill is one where you basically just march up and down stairs for 2 hours while people jump out at you and scare you and grab you by the ankles. It's terrible. I hate it. Right. Garth was a good witness for the prosecution because holy shit.
Yeah.
Also, he's such a wet blanket. What the hell? How is he scaring anybody?
Right. I wondered that too.
Is it having to listen to him talk?
I think he's reading a passage out of one of Chad's books.
He might be, because oh my God, you think that Chad is hard to listen to? Wait till you hear some of this other stuff I've got for you, but we'll get there. So he says on September 9th, 2019, Garth got home in the late afternoon. And that, remember what September 9th, 2019 is?
Yeah.
It's the day that Tylee was buried in the yard. Chad, when Garth pulls in, Chad came up to him wearing yard work clothes. He sounded very excited, Garth says. He told him he killed another raccoon. Garth believes it was the raccoon that kept breaking out of a cage they were trying to catch it in. And Chad showed Garth he had buried the raccoon, where? Behind the silver shed.
Yeah.
Not the pet cemetery.
Yeah.
So that was a big departure. That really, that was good. That was good.
Yeah.
That was a great thing for the
We're here for it.
prosecution.
We're here for it.
Yeah.
Sue says the haunted forest was the best. Was it the best, or was it the middle
Haunted Forest
school
was
where
the
you?
best.
I don't know. So
I
was
loved
it
it, but-
there, or was it the middle school where you had that incident? I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, that's true. I liked the Haunted Forest a lot, but one time you got stolen by a gorilla and it scared our mom so bad she peed her pants.
That's true.
So,
That did happen.
Another time I got
I didn't
scared
hate it.
because someone ran at me with a blowtorch and I ran into the woods and ran into a broken off tree and fell down and lost my glasses in the dark, and the Headless Horseman had to come save me because Katie and her friend Emily ditched me.
We were running for our lives.
Yeah, because this stuff's outside, you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're for real getting chased by a headless horseman on a real horse.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
On the river's
anyway.
edge. Yeah.
Yeah, it was scary.
Yeah.
But anyway, Katie, talk to us a little bit because we've all been discussing this today. Tell us the story about Garth and his wife. His child died.
So, and this is coming from Reddit. This is a man on Reddit who is the older brother of his daughter, his wife. I believe her name is Michaela. And he says that Garth met her while
Kara.
he was.
Her name is Kara.
Oh, Kara. He met her while she was a student. He was a substitute teacher at a high school locally, and met her and started dating her. He was, I believe, 28 at the time, and she was 16. And
yeah,
it was a really upsetting time for their family. And this person thought this was really bad news, partly because of what was going on with the Daybell family, partly because his sister was so much younger and was still in high school, and pretty much got shunned from the family for his, liberal opinions on this. And then they got married. We know that their engagement was FaceTimed with Chad from jail so that he could be a part of it. And they had both spoken to him before they got engaged and gotten his blessing. It is very, very concerning. Somebody in the you guys have been discussing it, and somebody in the chat wanted to know if Idaho doesn't prosecute people for sleeping with their students. I'm sure they didn't. They dated and got married. Yeah.
Yeah, Mormons,
It's surely illegal, though.
Devout
Jess.
Mormons do not have premarital sex. It's still gross, ridiculous, but also the age of consent for marriage in Idaho is 16.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yep.
So it is creepy. It's very creepy because Garth is creepy.
Yeah.
So now we know, because everybody's been dying about that. Now we know. Here, that's the deal with Garth.
Mm-hmm.
So then he talks about how his mom seemed to be just really tired a lot, and things were just getting harder and harder toward the end of her life. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
So basically they did a lot of yard work together, and he was the guy that did the heavy lifting. Yeah, I have a 28-year-old son that does that too. Like, that doesn't mean I'm about to pass away. It means he's got a lot younger knees and is a lot stronger than me. So yeah, of course.
But also, Tammy had a goddamn full-time job. Why wasn't Chad doing the yard work?
Right, exactly. But he talks about how that he was very close to his mom.
Mm-hmm.
He also said she would have fainting spells, and there was that whole thing about her kneeling for a while at the temple. And we all know that that's kind of a known thing that can happen to human beings and does not mean immediate death on anyone. So then they talk about the stupid October 9th paintball gun thing again. Garth says he was on the couch watching TV and that Chad was working on the computer. She came in panic-stricken, saying someone had attacked her with a paintball gun. He said, when she said that, I was filled with rage and I wanted to go find whoever had done this. Filled with rage. Yikes. But before I chased after someone, I said, are you sure it was a paintball gun? Oh, a rational human being for just a second. And she said, yes, it had the thing on top. And we know it had something on top. We also know that we had FBI guy that came in and talked all about this, and that it was likely a scope, and she thought it was a hopper. So then things get a kind of dicey because he tells a little bit more than one version of this story. He says that his mom and dad Googled a picture of a paintball gun to see what a hopper is, and that's when poor Deputy Coulter Cannon, he just gets maligned until it's just not fair. He said,
at least he got his name right today.
Yes, he didn't just call him Cannon or whatever.
Coulter. Officer Coulter instead of Deputy Cannon. Yeah.
Yeah. He says that they most definitely did show him a photo of a paintball gun on the computer. Deputy Cannon says that did not happen.
Mhm.
But also, he was running out looking for whoever attacked his mother. So how does he know what was shown to the police officer?
Mhm.
Anyway, so then we get to the night that Tammy died. Garth says he was working at the Haunted Mill in Teton. It's about 20 or 30 minutes away from his house. He said he dressed up in a costume and scared people.
Mhm.
Um,
Again, reading Chad's books, just
yes,
as an aside.
definitely. That's all
Yeah.
it would take. He says he got home from his first job because he's a teacher. And Tammy got home before him. She said, I don't feel good today. I don't want to cook. Can you get some McDonald's for us? So Pryor talked to him about how he had to drive a really long ways away to go to McDonald's.
That would kill me. McDonald's and Chad's house are literally on the same road.
They are.
Literally.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a straight
these
stretch.
guys do live out in the country. It's 10-ish minutes.
I timed it today. It was
closest
9
McDonald's.
minutes.
9 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I was like,
Mm-hmm.
because there's that other McDonald's where Chad had a vision where there was going to be anarchy, and that's the other McDonald's.
Oh, in that
on the other
parking
side of
lot,
town.
right? Yes.
Oh, was it in that parking lot? Oh, yeah. Just cracked me up. Like,
Yeah.
he had to drive a really long ways to get that food.
But he was willing to do that for super sick Tammy. He'd drive to the last McDonald's on earth if that's what it took.
Right. Garth also said that, we're pretty used to driving everywhere we go, because they live in the country.
Of course. Yeah.
So this was a dumb exchange. They even talked about what her order was. And then Pryor says, a healthy meal. And Garth goes, depends. I don't know what the hell that was about.
You two should both stop talking, because what? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So then, after bringing the food home, Garth leaves again at 7 to go to the Haunted Mill. And he says that his mom said, have a good time. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll let you sleep in. Garth says he got home from the Haunted Mill at 1 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
He said, as I passed their bedroom, I heard my father snoring. I think this was going back to the sleep apnea thing, because Pryor asked him, are you sure it was your father snoring?
Mm-hmm.
Garth said, yes.
I don't know. Ask everyone who's been incarcerated with Chad for the last 4 years. Does he snore?
Yeah.
We'd like to know. Yeah.
He looks like a guy that would snore. Garth said it was a normal night, that he just walked by their bedroom and saw that they were in bed asleep, and that he watched YouTube in his bedroom until about 3 a.m. before he went to sleep.
He said he saw 2 bodies in the bed.
Yeah, he did.
Choice of words, Garth. Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
So then he said he woke up a few hours later. His dad said, Garth, get up. I need help. He said he went into his parents' bedroom and saw his mother rolled out of bed with her feet tangled in the sheets. They have all said that. That is such a coached thing. They have all used feet or legs tangled in the sheets like that. Mm-hmm. And he said Garth went to grab his mom and help her into bed. Mm-hmm. He said, I felt she was cold and stiff, and she looked gray, and I realized she's not been breathing. Yeah. She's not been breathing.
Mm-hmm. Again, kind of an odd way to say it.
It was weird.
Yeah.
He said that he didn't see anything that looked like a struggle or a fight, and he said that he would have heard it if there had been. Mm-hmm. But if she was already dead when he came home from work at 1 p.m. at 1 a.m., he would have heard nothing.
Right. It's not that hard. Yeah.
He told the same stupid story about Flam Funeral Home and having the funeral on Tuesday or Saturday, which means nothing because Flam Funeral Home didn't do the funeral. Mm-hmm. Then he asks about the Knott's Berry Farm trip, and he says that they were there. He says first Lori was not with the group. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, she arrives later. Mm-hmm. During this testimony, Chad was leaning forward, really looking at Garth. I'm sure there was a whole lot of "don't fuck this up" going on, buddy, kind of stuff. And too late, sure
that's true.
He did. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he knows Garth. Mm-hmm. So, Garth learned about the exhumation of Tammy from Emma. You know, because Pryor had to go through the whole thing. Had anyone in your family been notified? No, we know they hadn't been. For God's sake, it is a criminal investigation. It is not required. They were investigating her murder. And then there was the day that Garth got arrested and had to go in for questioning.
Yes.
The way he describes it is so weird.
And the police surrounded me. Yeah.
Yes, several officers got out and surrounded me and insisted I go with them. Yeah, buddy, because at this point, your dad and his attorney are pointing the finger at you that you were involved.
Yeah.
You know, Pryor wants to know the names of the officers who showed up. Garth knew some of them.
He called Vince Kaikomanu Vinny.
Vinny. I refer to him as Vinny, he said. I was like, that is so disrespectful. Yeah. So they took in Garth and his wife. This was the thing that he was particularly uncomfortable about. You know, his little child wife was also detained, and they were kept in separate rooms for 5 to 6 hours. He says they were telling him my story was untrue and I needed to change it. Which I really doubt is what was actually said, but that's okay because that's recorded.
And they were super mean and rude to him. Yeah.
Yes, so rude. But they did, in fact, call his attorney. His attorney is a real interesting guy from Driggs. He says he was asked to change his story. He's also talked about being summoned to 2 separate grand juries. Yeah. The second grand jury being, do we need to charge Garth Daybell in Tammy Daybell's death?
Yeah. The jury had more questions for him, the grand jury, because he told a lot of lies. Yeah.
Garth says they had a list of charges that they were threatening me with. Well, when we get to this, you will see why. So Garth hired Forrest Fisher as an attorney. Oh, my goodness.
Well, he was a public defender.
Oh, that's right. He was a public defender.
Yeah.
He said he was feeling extremely pressured by prosecutors. All of this, ultimately, he was never indicted. So, I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
They talk about that Garth is LDS, that he interprets his faith different than his dad. He talked about that his dad is more traditional, closer to the way it was 100 years ago. More than that, but Garth was aware of the beliefs around the 144,000. Pryor wants to know what differences there are between his father's and his dad's faith. He said, I teach and believe in evolution. I teach that to my students. I teach the earth is 4.5 billion years old as opposed to 6,000. Now, not all Mormons believe in the 6,000-year-old earth thing.
No, in fact, a lot of them don't. That's a really outdated belief from the Old Testament.
Back in the original, like early Mormonism, they did. They believed in the 6,000-year-old earth. They believed that humans lived at the same time as dinosaurs, that kind of stuff. But that is generally not a standard thing in Mormonism these days.
That made me go, wait a minute, does Chad believe that? Does Chad think the earth is 6,000 years old?
He's implying that he does.
That was my thought
but too. But that is an old belief in the Mormon church.
Yeah.
You might be surprised or not surprised at this point to know, but Mormon church doctrine has changed very significantly over the existence of it.
That made me go, does Chad also think the earth is flat?
Oh my God.
Like, what else does he think?
He would.
He would
I
be.
can totally see that. Yeah. Garth did confirm that his parents did put light and dark numbers on people. He said every now and again. Pryor asked about a casting that was recorded in a book. So Garth says that Joseph Smith was casting a devil out of Newell Night. This is a well-known story. Garth says he isn't sure the story would be shared as often anymore because it wouldn't. Garth says Knight did not die after the demon was expelled from him. He went on to do great things. So there's a big difference between the two belief systems as far as Chad and, So then Pryor has no questions, and Lindsay Blake starts to cross-examine Garth. And things go crazy immediately because she starts asking about the Dodge Dakota and who drove it. And so I'm just going to play it for you so that you can hear what he said.
Mr. Daybell, I'm going to start with, there was some talk of who drove a Dodge Dakota. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And there seemed to be maybe a little bit of confusion there.
I believe that since the events were 7 years ago, I had trouble recalling which was which.
And your recollection is that your dad is actually the one that drove it in the later years?
Yes.
The events were 7 years ago, don't you know? No, they were not.
No.
But you kind of learn that there's definitely some stuff going on with Garth.
Yeah.
So they talk again about the raccoon and where it was buried. Garth confirms that yes, it was buried behind the silver shed. But that he was not there when the raccoon was buried.
Yeah.
There were some questions around, well, if you were so worried about your mom, why didn't you share any of those concerns about her health with the police or the coroner? He says, I don't recall. Because Garth was there. So Lindsay asks him, when you found out that there was an autopsy being performed on your mom, there were questions about her death. Did you go to law enforcement and let him know that you had concerns about her health? Because he had concerns about Tammy being short of breath. He said he assumed they would find it. Yeah. Lindsay wanted to know if he ever shot paintball guns with his mom. If he ever saw her with a paintball gun. He says no. She says, would it surprise you to know that Deputy Cannon never saw a picture of a paintball gun that night? And he says it would surprise him because the deputy was there. He talked about running out to see who had shot at his mom, but that it was really dark. Yeah, really dark. Like someone trying to identify a gun in the dark.
Yeah.
She talks about the night that Tammy died with him, that he didn't see either of his parents, that they were both in bed. I saw their shapes in the bed as I passed by their room, but he did not go in to talk to them. He talked about the night when he found, supposedly in this version of the story, he thought he heard a thump, and then his dad said, Garth, come help. When Chad pushed her out of bed, I guess. And he went in and saw his mom halfway off the bed, and he said, I immediately thought she needs my help, and tried and lifted her back up into the bed. They talked a little bit about the time that he was taken in by the police. She asks if he recalls that the police left the door open in the interview room for him and didn't, that he wasn't locked in. And they also bought him some food. They bought him McDonald's, and then his attorney came in, and he said,
on the
they
McDonald's,
offered, and I
accepted.
Yes, it was really strange. These guys speak really strangely. And then his attorney came in, and his attorney was present during questioning. So those mean police left the door open for him, brought him breakfast, and waited for his attorney to get there to talk to him.
Well, he said, yeah, but I had to ask them to call his attorney. Well, fuck, Garth. How else would they know how to call your attorney?
Right. Come on, man.
You would have to ask. That's not them being mean. Yeah.
Yeah. So then he talks about that Detective Kayakamano and an FBI agent went to his classroom one day after school to talk to him about the results of his mom's autopsy. And Blake asks Garth about talking to a person about finding his mom dead in bed and his dad gone, and Garth doesn't recall.
Yeah.
And then she asks if he recalls telling Kara and or Emma Moss, someone else they knew, about finding his mom on the couch.
Yeah.
He said, I did not tell them she was on the couch. Well, I'm going to play this for you because you tell me. This is also where we see Garth, who may in fact be a robot, glitch big time.
Do you recall talking to an individual named Micaiah Bagelin and telling him you found your mom dead in her bed and your dad gone?
I don't recall talking to him about that.
Do you recall talking to Cara Briggs, who's now Cara Daybell, and Emma Moss about finding your mom on the couch?
I told Kara. She's now my wife.
And there was talk of some testimony at some grand juries. Do you recall that? Sorry, let me back up. Let me rephrase that. Do you recall counsel asking you about having testified at a couple proceedings?
Sorry, I don't quite know the rules, but when you're talking to me about Kara and Emma, can you repeat that question? I don't know if that.
Yes. Do you recall telling Cara and or Emma about finding your mom on the couch?
I did not tell them that she was on the couch.
Do you recall having talked to one or both of them?
I do. I had told them that the night before I had seen her on the couch as she said goodbye to me.
And if they were to say something different, would that surprise you?
I mean, I've heard that before.
Garth forgot the story he was supposed to tell and admitted to telling his wife that he found his mom on the couch and his dad gone. I told someone else that as well. And you know now they're going to have to, I bet his wife is subpoenaed, and I bet they have to call her for rebuttal. But when she says, would it surprise you that they are saying something different than what you're saying? He said, I've heard that before.
Yeah.
That is why the grand jury had to call him back. Because he's told too many stories now.
Yep.
What's real? What did Garth actually witness? What really happened? What did Garth actually know when they reported this to the police?
Yeah.
Because Tammy was dead when he got home from work. We know that from the location data from Alex's phone. They killed her between 11:30 and midnight on the 18th. Because then he was out of there. Garth gets home at 1 p.m., sees 2 bodies in the bed. Bodies, according to him. Or was his mom dead on the couch and his dad wasn't there? Is that what actually happened?
Right.
So that was a huge moment because you know that they're going to be bringing in people.
Oh, yeah.
Who will testify to this.
And no wonder Chad was giving him the stare down. They knew this was coming. They had to have known this was coming. Except for, why'd they put Garth on the stand at all? My whole thought process today was, why put Garth on the stand at all? He was an excellent witness for the prosecution.
He was.
I don't know why they would have put him on the stand.
I don't either. Chad thought he'd got through to him finally. I don't know. But then Blake, in all of her glory, ended her cross-examination of Garth with this.
Are you aware of your mom having been designated as being possessed?
I had not heard that before.
Had you ever heard of JJ Vallow being designated as being possessed?
I had not heard that.
What about Tylee Ryan?
I had not heard that.
Is your mom still alive?
She is not.
Do you know where the remains of Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow were located?
They were found in the backyard.
And when you say the backyard, whose backyard?
My father's.
I have no further questions.
She drops it again. But you
also,
notice.
What did he call it? The pasture, the farm, the backyard.
And so did Emma. They both said The backyard.
because that's what they call it, because that's how close to the house it is.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Right. Garth has told multiple stories to different people. You're right, Aaron. And media before being told by his attorney not to speak out anymore. Right. But what is the real story here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really
that was
curious. Yep.
wild.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to talk about his attorney real quick, and then we're going to leave Joseph Murray's testimony to tomorrow because they weren't done with it. So I'd rather, because I can have some clips and stuff for it tomorrow night. But then the weirdest thing ever happened. They call Garth's attorney to the stand, you guys. Forrest Fisher. Garth has waived his attorney-client privilege so that this guy can testify in this hearing, which I am 100% sure that this guy does not want to do, because defense attorneys, well, any attorney, they don't want to be called
Get on the
as
stand.
witnesses.
No.
This was wild. So Fisher is he works in Driggs, which is, you know, a couple of hours away from Fremont County, but he was asked to provide legal services for Garth during the grand jury proceedings.
Yeah.
The focus of that grand jury was specifically on Garth, as we know. He said Garth had previously testified in front of the grand jury, and that the jury had follow-up questions. And so they got Garth an attorney because they had to call him in because they were considering charging him. Fisher said,
what did we say about Chad opening Garth up? This is what we were talking about. This here.
Yep. So Fisher says Garth had questions. Fisher told him to answer only the questions being asked in the grand jury. Because here's the thing, he couldn't go in with him. Fisher was sitting outside. So he's just giving him some advice before he goes in to testify in this second grand jury. And he says that if he wasn't sure what to say, that Garth could ask to talk to his attorney. But he was outside and, you know, just said, just come talk to me if you have any questions. And Fisher also told Garth not to talk to the media. But this was after a lot of that damage had already been done.
Yeah.
Pryor wants to know if Fisher told Garth that this was a trap designed to trick him. He says he doesn't recall exactly what he said, but he wouldn't be surprised if he did, because Garth had already testified in the previous grand jury, and you know, and this was about Garth committing perjury.
Yeah.
So that was all that Pryor asked.
Right. But so much song and dance about that whole thing that they were trying to force Garth to change his testimony or he was getting charged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is not what happened at all.
No, honey. They were trying to get you to tell the truth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because he's told so many stories. What the hell, you know? Blake asks if it was his understanding that if it was the same grand jury with additional questions. He said he thought so, but he wasn't sure. Fisher said that he provided legal counsel to his client and that there were no charges against Garth, and that was it.
Yep.
And then next was Joseph Murray on the trial or on the stand, but we're already in 2 hours, so we're going to get that tomorrow. Because honestly, the stuff that the prosecution comes back with is more important to me than what was said, because we know they're lying their asses off, and the prosecutor is you know, getting her ammunition ready for the redirect. But yeah, Chad doesn't give a shit about Garth or Emma. He has wrapped these two kids up in this situation terribly.
Yeah.
You know,
and now wants them on the stand to save him.
And now he's on the stand saving them. So it's just gross.
Yeah.
But it was a really weird day. Really weird.
Yep.
But yeah, I agree, Colleen, that Garth had been told by Chad a specific story that he was supposed to tell, and he fucked it up.
Mm-hmm.
And now, but what were they going to charge Garth with? Well, they were at one point, so they were going to charge him with perjury originally for lying to the grand jury, and then they were actually seriously considering charging him for Tammy's death after all of that, later on.
Right.
They haven't done either, but I think what they've shown us is that the story that has been told from Chad and Emma and all those people about what happened and what was told to the paramedics and the police, or to the police and the coroner, is very likely not even what happened that night at all.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
really,
wild
really
stuff.
curious. Jaw-dropping stuff.
Yeah.
We knew there was a second grand jury. We had heard the whispers. We knew there was a
Yes.
second grand jury. We've talked about this years ago and
Yeah.
went, maybe we're going to see more charges roll out. We really thought, is this going to be Melanie Gibb? Is this going to be Zulema? Is this going to be Melanie Pulowski? I, in my wildest dreams, did not think it was going to be Garth, honestly.
No.
But we waited for months thinking maybe we'd see more charges filed here because of what, because we knew there had been a second grand jury and then nothing. So now we know this is what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty wild. So the state will be on cross with Joseph Murray in the morning. That should be pretty interesting because Joseph Murray is a real wild card. He's been all over the internet around when this stuff happened, being a real dick smack. So we're gonna see some shitty stuff out of him, I think.
Oh, the morning that Nate Eaton is flying in a helicopter to the Daybell property saying they are searching, they are digging, we're on our way. He says, see you soon, Joseph. Because guess who was mouthing off in his chat? Per normal.
Yeah.
So some of you guys, because I had talked about this earlier, that he was a real ass on the internet when the kids were missing.
Yeah.
And asked if I would speak to that a little bit. A lot of the smack he talked and his dad's talked was in a local Facebook group called I Love Life in Rexburg. And I can't go back and find that stuff now because I have been kicked out of I Love Life in Rexburg.
I haven't, so I will go see if I can find it. I'm still in there.
You go see if you can find it. Yep, look for Ed Murray and I got kicked out because I said a thing.
Or Joseph
Should I
Murray.
tell them what I said? I said.
Please do. Please tell them. Yes, they will love it.
It was a fight about Rexburg Pride last year because you could imagine we do have Pride here now, and you can imagine how people act about it. And I said kids were a lot more likely to be sexually assaulted at church than they ever would be at a drag show. And that was the end of it. I was kicked out.
Booted. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's true. You're in. So yeah, you go look. You'll probably
I only use it occasionally for entertainment purposes, and I don't respond to anything in there because it is not fucking worth it. But yeah, I can.
You'll get kicked out.
So I'll go see what I can find. Yeah, I won't get kicked out. Yeah. I won't. I'll get some screenshots. That's what I'll do.
Please do. Yes.
Yeah. All righty. Well, thank you all so much for being here. I know this has gone longer than 2 hours, and that's a long update, but it was a long day.
It was a long day, and kind of all of it needed to be dissected. Yeah.
It really did. So we will be back at 8:30 in the morning for more of the Belligerent Turd Circus. As always, if you would like to support us in any way, go to truecrimesquad.com. There are lots of ways to do that there. Also, if you're a Discord person and you haven't joined our Discord, come join it. We have a really fun Discord. We're having a blast over there, and you are invited. It is the top link at truecrimesquad.com is the invite. So come join us. And you know it. We are the True Crime Squad. Thanks for being here.
Take care.